Welcome back to another edition of Seahawk Central Sports. I'm guest host Danny Knowles, sitting alongside Ben Tyson.
Today we have a great show lined up as Danny and I debate some interesting sports topics, including a possible track relay team made up of NFL superstars. But first, let's get to some Hawk news. The UNCW men's relay team finished second among colleges in the men's 4x800-meter relay in the 2011 Florida Relays. The meet was held in Gainesville, Florida, and only the hometown Florida Gators beat the Seahawks in the event. The relay team narrowly missed setting a school record by 0.13 of a second. UNCW's 4x200 relay team posted a season best time as well. Cam Shaver had that one in the men's 5,000 meter, also a school record, and Lindsey Esther set a new season best in the women's 5,000. Junior Aaron Brennan set a school record for the women's team as well in the 3,000 meter steeplechase. Next on the schedule is the Beach vs. Mountains Challenge hosted by Western Carolina University.
Moving on to baseball, the Seahawks returned home to Brooks Field this past week for the first time since March 16th, following a road stretch that saw them post a 3-4 record following a series win at George Mason University. However, the outcome was not what they were looking for in their first game back at the friendly confines, as ECU crushed the Seahawks 20-5. ECU recorded a season high in runs and hits and improved its record to an impressive 19-5, while the Seahawks dipped to 14-11. The Pirates scored 10 runs in the first two innings off pitchers Ryan Leach and Jack Lane, only two of the 10 pitchers UNCW would use on the day. Cameron Cockman and Hunter Ridge led the way offensively for the Diamond Hawks, as each had 2 hits apiece. UNCW looks to rebound this week with a weekend home series against Delaware. Times and information can be found at uncwsports.com. So make sure to make it out to all the games this weekend and support your Diamond Seahawks.
The final round of the UNCW Ladies Seahawk Classic was canceled this past Tuesday due to inclement weather in the southeastern North Carolina region. The storm brought heavy rains and strong winds that featured gusts topping 60 miles per hour. East Carolina was declared the tournament winner after leading by 13 strokes after 2 rounds. UNCW freshman Laveri Kumar paced the Seahawks and finished 12th in the event, posting rounds of 80 and 77. UNCW returns to action April 22nd in the CAA Golf Championships at the Pinehurst Golf Resort in Pinehurst, North Carolina.
Moving on to the women's tennis team, who netted its 3rd straight shutout against UNC Charlotte this past weekend. The Seahawks improved their record to an impressive 19-3 this year and picked up their 16th win in the last 18 matches. Lindsay LeBlanc and Christina Lee didn't even allow their opponents to win a game, routing them 6-0 in each. Olga Blank and Angie Selke set the tone for the day with an 8-1 smackdown of Emmanuel Bryant and Alexandria Zinn in doubles. Chelsea Cayley and Kelly Cameron also picked up a doubles win versus Tiffany Vassampruth and Jenny Johnson 8-2. Their next match is against Charleston Southern next week.
Moving on, the UNCW softball team went on a 5-game road trip to the Peach State this past week. They faced the Georgia Bulldogs in Athens for a doubleheader to begin, where they were swept 11-0 and 7-0. The Bulldogs extended their nation-long home winning streak to 35 games and improved to 30-4 on the season. In the first game, pitcher Allison Owen went 4 innings, allowing just 1 hit for the Bulldogs. She also had 10 strikeouts. Junior Ashley Singleton picked up the lone hit for the game for the Seahawks. In Game 2, Morgan Montemayor went 4 innings, allowing 1 hit and striking out 4 for Georgia. Nicole Tuttle had the only Seahawk hit in that one. That's 2 hits in 2 games. Then they took their show on the road to Atlanta for a 3-game series against Georgia State, kicked off by a doubleheader on Saturday. In Game 1, the Seahawks fell 3-0. Elena Thomas was pulled 2 outs before she could complete the shutout for the Bulldogs. She only allowed 4 runs to the Seahawks the whole game. 4 hits, excuse me. Amanda Adidas threw a good game for the Hawks, only allowing 5 hits, but couldn't get any run support. In Game 2, the Seahawks finally scored, but it wasn't enough for the victory. McCall Langford picked up the win for the Panthers. She went 6 innings, allowing a 2nd-inning home run to Ashley Singleton. Sammy Lasowski threw a complete game for the Seahawks, but it just wasn't enough as the Seahawks lost 4-1. On Sunday, the 2 teams played Game 3, and it was deja vu all over again as Georgia State proved victorious 4-1. The Seahawks' lone run came in the top of the 2nd on a GSU error that allowed Daniela Torres to score from 3rd with 2 outs. However, Amanda Davenport gave up 3 runs in 4 2/3 to pick up her 7th loss of the season. Speaking of losses, the Seahawks picked up their 28th of the season and their 5th in a row, as well as in conference play.
In men's basketball news, on behalf of a fellow Colonial school, congratulations to Virginia Commonwealth University for reaching the Final Four before losing to Butler in the national semifinal game. It was certainly an uncommon appearance for the CA, just our 2nd Final Four appearance ever, the first being George Mason in 2006. And an uncommon appearance means uncommon wealth for the university and every other CAA team. $12.6 million over the next 6 years to be exact, according to the Star News' Brian Mole. The Colonial, unlike many other D1 conferences, doesn't share the wealth evenly. In a system that will please any fan of capitalism, the farther you get, the more you earn. The conference has a generous incentive system that distributes 60% of the income evenly, while the remaining 40% goes into an excellence pool. Teams earn shares of that money for winning the regular season title, reaching the NCAA tournament, winning a game in the field of 68, finishing the season with a top 100 RPI, or having a winning non-conference record. A homecoming win against Charleston Southern would have put UNCW in that last category, but unfortunately that $40,000 will go to another campus. Our school will receive approximately $193,000 from that 60% share though. So thanks VCU, and we'll see you next year.
Coming up, Danny and I will debate some of the hottest topics this week in the world of sports.
Stay tuned. Seahawk Central Sports will be right back.
Welcome back to Seahawk Central Sports. The 2011 NCAA basketball tournament concluded this past Monday with the UConn Huskies defeating the Butler Bulldogs 53-41. UConn held Butler to an anemic and record-low 18.8% shooting from the field. Ouch. In fact, this game had a score of 22-19 at halftime. So, Danny, was this the worst high school game ever or just the worst title game ever?
It was pretty bad, but I will say that the worst title game ever was a couple years back when UNC played Michigan State in 07.
Oh, we killed them?
Because that game wasn't even a game. This game was at least close at halftime, close with 10 minutes left. Then Kemba Walker and Lamb took over the game. But that game, back in Ty Lawson and Wayne Ellington and Hansborough, they just dominated. It was 14. They had a 20-point lead with 10 minutes.
Lawson had 8 steals. I remember that game.
In the game, they were up by 14 points the whole game. That was their.
It was like 96-79.
They won by I think 17 that wasn't even a title game. This one was at least close, but it was painful to watch. It was like watching bad Big Ten basketball, and I hate watching Big Ten basketball because it's all defense. It's 50-40 every game.
That's a good point. It's like Scott Van Pelt says, watching bad Big Ten basketball is like watching fat people having sex. Good for UConn. They're 14-0 on neutral courts. Defense definitely mattered last night. Oriaki handled the Butler big men. They tied the championship game record with 10 blocks. There was only one Butler basket in the paint the whole game. They only had 3 3-pointers. I mean, these are just terrible stats. Smith and Howard, the 2 white boys down low for Butler, were embarrassed. I think it shows the dilution of college basketball by the one-and-done stars. And I think they should change the rule to make it that you have to stay at least 2 years.
And it definitely exposed Butler's players to, I don't know if they're going to be good NBA players because the size and length really troubled them.
That's a good point. And one last thing, Gordon Hayward got drafted last year because he missed a game-winning shot. Do you realize that? He got drafted in the 8th position, 9th. I think he should have been lower in the first round. His career will prove that.
All right, moving on. The 2011 Masters are this weekend, and there's a lot of different storylines from Tiger Woods struggling recently to Phil Mickelson winning this past weekend. Who do you have in the 2011 Masters?
Well, you just said his name, Phil Mickelson. He won last week. He won last year in the Masters. He actually shot at 16 under. It was his first major victory since 06. Get this. He won the Masters in 06 and in 05, and in both of those years, he won the tournament the week before, that being the Bell South Classic. I mean, it's going to be deja vu all over again. Phil Mickelson with his 5th major victory of his career. I'm pulling for him.
I do like Phil. Phil's been doing really well. I'm interested to see what Tiger does because Tiger has been awful lately, but he always comes out and performs in big events. But here's my big name to look out for, the frat swoop himself, Bubba Watson. Bubba Watson, he played for the Ryder Cup, played very well. He's been very good this year early. Also to look out for Martin Kamer, but this is the #1 world player, but also he's never made a cut
in the
Masters, so that'll be interesting. And Luke Donald, he's finished.
When was the last time Bubba won? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
I think it was sometime at the end of last year. I think it was last November.
Yeah.
So he's got a little bit of momentum, but just not the same momentum as Phil.
Yeah, because Phil's obviously a great golfer in itself.
Let's talk about Tiger. You say he's good. He brings it to the majors. Well, he brings it to the first 2 days.
Yeah, and then he's been
garbage on the weekend.
Yeah, so we'll see about that.
We'll see if Tiger wears his Ron Swanson red and black on Sunday, trying to get the victory.
Yep.
All right, switching over to baseball, former Pirates and Giants superstar Barry Bonds is on trial for perjury regarding whether or not he used steroids as a pro. The jury still remains out on what the outcome will be. Bonds definitely has a Hall of Fame resume with the numbers and such, but Danny, do you think he deserves to be a Hall of Famer based on his linkage to steroids and the steroids era?
The answer is simple. I think it's no. Numbers alone, definitely. I think even if he didn't take steroids, he'd be a Hall of Famer. But the fact is he took steroids.
True.
I don't think that him, Mark McGwire, Palmeiro,
Sosa.
Pettit, Sosa,
A-Rod?
Clemens, A-Rod, I don't think any of them deserve to be in the Hall of Fame just because of the fact that they took steroids, which obviously was part of that era, but it's a performance-enhancing drug, and it obviously makes you better. Because if you just look at these numbers, 298 average, 762 home runs, almost 3,000 hits, almost 2,000 RBIs, has the record for walks, 500 stolen bases. People forget he was a
he was 400
he was
guy
fleet-footed back when he was with the Pirates.
Steroids.
So he definitely has a Hall of Fame resume, but I don't think he deserves at all to be, because he definitely lied to a grand jury saying he did not take steroids.
Absolutely. He's obviously guilty of perjury. I hope he spends time in jail. He deserves to. You cannot lie under oath. That's a huge offense in my opinion. I look at that number, 762 home runs, and it's disappointing really because I remember the night he hit that last home run, and he was booed mercilessly. It was on the road. Of course, the home fans loved him, but he was just booed without stopping. And he was hitting. He had already broken Hank Aaron's record, and of course, Bud Selig made Aaron, do that video to congratulate Bonds. It all seemed very fake.
Yeah.
It's just a stain on baseball. And I think that you're right that he should not be allowed in the Hall of Fame. None of these guys should, because it sends a good message. The players have stopped using steroids because they want to be in the Hall of Fame. Mark McGwire got 24% of the vote. That's the highest he's gotten in his 5 years. It's the perfect punishment for doing steroids, I think.
Yeah,
But
I
we'll see.
don't think he deserves. But my former favorite player, Ken Griffey Jr., definitely does. Definitely does.
You're right about that. I agree.
Bouncing over to basketball, the Los Angeles Lakers have been red hot since the All-Star break and have shrunk the Spurs lead to only 2.5 games. Kobe Bryant is having another spectacular year after averaging 25 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. However, Kobe has only won one MVP trophy. So, do you think Kobe often gets overlooked because he is always there?
I think Kobe gets overlooked because he's annoying. He's not fan-friendly for the most part. He does have one. He plays in L.A. where it's mostly 10 o'clock games on the East Coast, 7 o'clock on the West Coast. But you look at the numbers, and he does deserve to be in the conversation. 25.2 points per game, 5.2 rebounds per game, 4.8 assists per game, shooting 45%. 32% from three-point line. Those numbers mirror Rose almost to the T, except for Rose has 4.2 rebounds, slightly less per game, and 7.9 assists per game, which is 3 more than Kobe. That's another reason why I think Kobe doesn't get as much love from the MVP voting, because he's a very selfish player. He always has been. He's trying to be more of a team guy, and he's won 2 championships in a row, so he obviously knows how to be a team guy in the playoffs. And I look for him to repeat as Western Conference champion.
Yeah, I think he often gets overlooked because he has superstars on his team. Back when LeBron James won the MVP 2 years in a row, he had no superstars. Back when Steve Nash was on the Suns, and he had no superstars. Derrick Rose this year, he has Boozer. Boozer's a great player, but he's by no means a superstar.
And
so
they
that's
also
why,
assisted the ball. They love
that's
passing.
why
Very
everyone
selfish.
is all on Derrick Rose right now. They're on the Derrick Rose bandwagon because he doesn't have another superstar. LeBron James is having another excellent season, but he's got Wade and he's got Bosh. Kobe has Pau Gasol, and he's got some other nice pieces. So it's all on who the other. If they have other superstars, then it takes less pressure off them.
Biggest disappointment of this year, Chris Bosh. Would you agree with that?
He's had not as stellar as a season as most people had thought. So
I think he's been shown
It's
as soft,
Yes,
especially by Kevin
definitely.
Durant
Yes.
and other big men.
yeah.
All right, well, let's get on to some football. The NFL season is still in question as no new labor negotiations have started. No news there. So some players are trying out new sports. Recently, Bengals receiver Chad Ochocinco tried out for a professional soccer team in Kansas City. Earlier this week, Jamal Charles said if the lockout continues, he would take his talents to the track and field circuit. Charles is considering running the Texas Relays with fellow NFL speedsters Adrian Peterson, Deshaun Jackson, and Chris Johnson. What do you make of this, Danny?
This is recently they just said this. I think that they would make one heck of a track team because Jamal Charles was the 110 and 300 meter nation champion in high school.
Wow.
Chris Johnson has the record in the
Combine
4.24. Deshaun Jackson flies, and Adrian Peterson is the only one that Adrian Peterson, I don't really know him as a speedster. He's more of a bully kind of back. I think they could get someone else on that track team NFL superstar track team, they could probably get like Jacoby Ford or Darius Hayward Bay.
Yeah, well,
pretty much anyone on the Raiders, because the Raiders always draft for speed. So.
Well, I would say Adrian Peterson would be more of a truck star. You use the truck stick with him in Madden. Talk about the Raiders. Darren McFadden, where's he at on this list? Jamal Charles and Peterson, they're both going to have to cut down some upper body weight to be able to run without toppling over at that high speed and be competitive. I like Jackson. Like you say, he flies on the field. Chris Johnson. There's some cornerbacks that could do it as well. D'Angelo Hall. A few years back in the Pro Bowl, they used to have the Pro Bowl Skills Challenge, and they would have the 40-yard dash race between like 4 of the fastest guys, and I used to love that. I remember it would always be really close. So I think these guys could really entertain a lot of people and bring a lot of fans to the sport of track and field.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, not only track, just other sports, because quarterbacks could be pitchers, and then other positions translate really well. Like, I remember a couple of years back, you remember Ricky Manning Jr. for the Panthers? He was drafted at 3rd round, I think, by the Minnesota Twins, but he chose football. There's a lot. Carl Crawford was a great two-sport athlete, and he played football too. So there's
Charlie Ward go all the way back. He played 3 sports in college.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in the NFL that could also play other sports professionally. So it's interesting to see.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. Special thanks go out to Joe Browning, Dustin Miller, and the Communication Studies Department.
We'll be back in 2 weeks with more footage, more news, and more analysis. Have a great week. Check us out online at youtube.com/TealTV2010.
And remember, make it out to the game. Support your Seahawks.
See you later, Seahawks.